I will dress up in a cat costume, okay, and do catnip on stream. I can do like a breakdown of like everything that I think is good. League start with like the Ascendancies, because I think like France needs a video too. Okay, if this is like, there might be a more stuff than this, right? But this is like what I would do. So if I was playing Ranger and I was playing Oshabi, I would League start Spellslinger, because 50% reduced mana reservation on POB is crazy, and the poison node with DD of Chain is like okay, right? You can do that. You can get this going like really like early into a league, and you can have your Spellslinger set up like almost immediately after Crolab. So you just play Peaconk until you get to this, and you're good. The other stuff that you can do is like evasion stacking, but that's gonna come like later, and I don't feel like it's really strong at start. This also opens you up to wands. You can play wands with curses, like using the helm to stack like flat chaos damage and use playing like stuff like KB, and that's okay. And then you eventually just get poisoned from this anyways, right? You can play that on in both ways, which is like just taking these nodes and stacking evasion for attack damage, or getting shrines, or getting poison. So that's what I think. I think this Ascendancy is okay. It's lacking defensive options, which is basically a lot of the Ascendancies in the game. It's definitely playable. You can definitely have a really smooth league start, but I think the power level of this is going to cap out at around like, I don't know, 15, 20 million poison damage, and you're not going to be that tanky, right? But if you want to play Spellslinger, right, definitely doable. I still think it's good, because, you know, when do you ever get to really play Spellslinger as a league starter in PoE anymore, right? Whisper, I definitely don't think Whisper is I think Whisper is a great Ascendancy. I don't know how smooth league starting it will be, because getting mana gear it's not as difficult with the combinators as before.
Hey guys, watch this. Cat merge into Mega Cat. Boom. Oh, come on, what is this?
So it might, like, that might be your saving grace, but you still need to get enough gear for you to do enough damage. I think it's going to end up being really great with KB of Clustering, Power Siphon of Archmage. It's going to be really good with a lot of the stuff, like the mana dependent stuff, like Rage Vortex, and all of that stuff is going to be pretty decent with this. I also think this Ascendancy is just like strong right off the bat from Powers and Frenzies, and getting this node, right? So if you have some way of getting lots of spell damage early, you can get enough increase and enough like stats to like power you through like the introductory part of the game until you get to, you know, your town, and you can actually make your mana gear. I don't think deck stacking is bait. I just think it needs to be a part of something, right? You definitely need to stack decks on this Ascendancy. This is like the main part of the Ascendancy. So you definitely want, like, whatever decks you can get that gives you a flat mana is pretty good, because you definitely want this node, right? I do think this Ascendancy is good, and it has a lot of options, but I feel like it's more of a like a mid-game Ascendancy and a late-game Ascendancy than a league starter. I could be wrong though. I never league started Power Siphon Transgem. You might work at it. If you really want to play it. I think it could be okay, but I've never done it. So I couldn't tell you. You're gonna have to ask someone who's actually played Power Siphon like of Archmage at league start with minimum gear to tell you like exactly like how good it is, because I haven't done it. Like before recombinators were a thing, I kind of avoided a lot of mana builds because getting that gear was just almost impossible to make, right? But now it's a little bit better. It is just, yeah, I would say second reroll. Once you POB certain things, I think this is better. But I do think I do think Whisperer is good though. Also, Wildspeaker, I also think Wildspeaker is good. There's a lot of options, but I haven't POB'd a lot of this stuff. I think this node is really strong. You get suppression, and later you migrate to spell dodge, and you can get like 75 spell dodge with 75 spell block, and you get some endurance charges and stuff like that. As long as you don't get one tapped, you're probably never gonna fucking die on the build ever. And spells, and then you'll have like attack block also, and you're on the right side for evasion. So like an evasion build with enough max hit with 90% block, 90% spell block, and 75 spell dodge is really hard to kill, right? So you have that option like defensively going forward, and you obviously use stuff like Aspect of the Crab when you do take damage, but it's like, at least it's like some sort of like defensive thing you can build around, right? I'm not saying that's the best defensive layer in the world, especially for hardcore, but it's what you have. It's what the Ascendancy kind of gave you. And then like, obviously this Ascendancy is very good for league starting Flicker Strike because it gives you frenzies and powers here. You have a lot of other options for Spectral Wolf, which is good for Doom Fletcher and Fisting, whatever it's called. And later on, you can use it for Uber Elder Sword. Dude, sorry, I'm forgetting the names of all these items because it's been too long since I played this game. Void Forge, there we go. I think Doom Fletcher is like the best option though, because it's really hard to crit with Facebreaker. So it's definitely like a Doom Fletcher angle, I think. You never want to go Aspect of the Cat because Aspect of the Cat is garbage unless you're playing Flicker. I think Avian is okay, but I don't think it's really super, super strong. This mod is okay at League Start too, right? Overall, I think this Ascendancy is definitely playable. It gives you a starting defensive option or a defensive layer, and it gives you several starting ways to generate damage, which is good enough. But you're gonna, for something like super, super endgame, you're gonna have to POB it yourself because I don't have a clear path for you for like endgame options on this Ascendancy. For defenses, yeah,
Aspect of the Cat.
but to be honest, you're probably going to end up being like a fucking like Lightning Strike build if you play this, to be honest. Okay. Antiquarian is, I think, very good, but I don't know if it's very good as a starter. The dex penalty here is kind of a really big drawback. The 50% block on your shield is kind of okay, right? Far shot is 60% more damage for a lot of projectile skills. I think all of these are like okay. The ward thing is the interesting here. Get 50% ward instead of armor and evasion. You get 3,000 armor and evasion from your armor now from Recombinators. That combined with the Eve's Belt from Bow, you get 110%, which is like insane, right? You end up with like some like 20,000 ward with this mod right off the bat. And you can get enough ward recharge rate to get about half a second to recharge your ward now with these two things. That gives you like an insanely good defensive layer if you use a shield like Fallen, right? Or if you don't care about dying, then you switch to Night Grips and you get about, 20,000 ward is 2,000 flat, like chaos damage to spells or attacks. And that enables like tons of builds to come online. You have Exhibit 24 here, which is you have no intelligence. I don't think I would ever click this node until you have the Timeless Jewel. And this is some like duration, like strength stacking duration build. I don't know exactly what's like really, really good because this is supposed to be, they said this is a typo and it's also skill effect duration and it's not actual duration because actual duration means like headhunter buffs and fucking and whatever. Like Stormburst is really, really good with duration. Obviously stuff like Blade Vortex and stuff, but it's not good enough for you to build off of. Viper Strike is good with duration, but do you like really want to ramp up like 20 seconds of poison though? Like be honest, do you want to sit there on like then you're playing like a Quinn build? And shit is just not gonna die, right? I don't think poison's like really good, and there's not enough stuff here for poison to like be good. Like if you're playing Viper Strike, what are you gonna be playing? Like ward-based Viper Strike? I guess that's like okay, like going Night Grip with like high duration, but you're gonna end up damage. You're gonna end up with damage, but you're gonna end up with like a build that's like super squishy, and it's kind of hard to play Viper Strike from the Marauder side, and it requires too much stuff, right? Like you need a jewel to literally be able to play that because you can't play poison without int. What about Voltaxic Burst? I mean, like, that's good with duration, right? But you also can't play Voltaxic Burst without intelligence, right? So it's not a league start option. There's a lot of, and like, we can talk about endgame options all day with stuff like that, but having a long duration on Voltaxic Burst is not like the best thing in the world either. You get a lot of damage, but it takes so long for that shit to start going off too. So every single time you rezone into a new zone, it's just like, right, for like 40 seconds, and you don't want to do that. The point of the game is to make, I feel like the point of the game is to make all the builds feel good, to have fun with, and stuff that's tedious. It's interesting, but it's not really fun. Get what I'm saying? Sort of. Oh, I just don't know what you can do with this until like later in the game, right? Behemoth is probably like, I would say like the second worst from what I've seen. I don't even know what the fuck this Ascendancy does. I feel like your first 3 nodes is this, and you're going to end up with 100% increased damage, fortify with an extra, I don't know, 10 fortify. And so you're going to end up with what, like 36 attack speed and 100% increased damage for the first 3 nodes of your point, which is like, and like 8% regen or something. I don't know what the fuck this is supposed to be. and you lose all your auras.
Rue, you're so popular.
And whatever. On this side, it's probably like a little bit more interesting because you basically get like Hateforge on the right side. And the interesting thing with Hateforge is probably like Vol Ground Slam. And you can get 3 Vol Ground Slams off if you take every single max rage node. And then you have to wait a second and then refill your rage with this, which requires like a faster hitting skill. And you might want to use like stuff like a pair of Admiral Skull. But after you've set everything up, Vol Ground Slam is like 5 something. It's like 557 times 49%. So it's like 700 something. And you're like capped with like half a time not being able to use it. So in terms like the total amount of damage you get from doing this whole combo is worse than someone holding down Lightning Strike. So, and then you lose all your auras. So it's like, why the fuck do I bother? Kind of a deal. So this node is definitely not super, super good at the start either. You get your 10 unarmed crit, which is good for Facebreaker, but you have no like increased flat fizz on this build. So it's not kind of like not good. And I don't know what else you want to use unarmed with. Like Doriani's is like a T like 2 unique or something. And you probably won't get that until like later. And even if you do have Doriani's, like if you put all your points in the crit, you're probably going to die. So the armor stacking side of it is like, okay, you get 2 replica Dream Feathers here, but you're going to need to like pretty much redo your whole build for strength stacking. And strength stacking at League Start is just, right? Especially when your build is like just generally just weak from not being able to use spells. So I would stay the fuck away from this. I don't know what the fuck they wanted us to do with this. There was like no vision in this Ascendancy. At least I don't see it. This might be one of the worst Ascendancies they ever made, I think. At least from a League Start perspective. Okay. Ancestral Commander is definitely good. I think it's definitely good. +3 endurances, and we'll just go defensive first. +3 endurances plus the Jug Forbidden Jewel lets you get up to like 15 endurance charges at the end game, which is basically your full, like, it's basically you need. And I'm pretty sure Defiance of Destiny stacks with this, so you're going to get a nerf Defiance. I don't know what the fuck is going to kill you once you have that. Offensively, I think the best thing to do here is to play Warcries with, I'm probably going to League Start this, by the way, play Warcries with Explodes. I don't know exactly what I want to do yet, but I'm probably going to start Corpse Walkers, Unearth, and Desecrate, right? And just popping them like, but without crit being enabled on explosions, like I think my only option is to go Poison because I really don't have any other options to get another multiplier, right? Because when you play Explodes, right, you have no base crit, so you don't have an avenue of scaling besides like increased damage, right? So the only way you can actually scale damage on the build is if you go Ignite, which then opens you up to fire damage multiplier and minus res, or Poison, which opens you up to chaos damage multiplier and minus res from chaos damage, right? And without one of those 2 things, you just probably can't scale enough damage with hit base to do anything, so you're probably going to have to do that. I think this node is really, really good for a strike build, but there's nothing else here that's really, really good for strikes. I haven't played with the Warrior's Ring in a long time. I don't even remember how good Ancestral Echo was. I remember testing it back in the day and not thinking this was very, very good. So it's probably still not very, very good. I could be wrong. I can't confirm that for sure. Born Under Fire stacks with the other node, but it's nearby, or the comms like belt. So for a total of, I don't know if it works with Catalyst, but it's 75%. But it's nearby, and I don't know where nearby is. I probably wouldn't use this as a defensive thing because this node is just way better. Like, why the fuck would I click this when I could just click this, right? All of this like Spiritus stuff, it all involves you taking crits and stuff, which I don't know. You have to go read some of them. But Rakiata's is action speed. I think this is the thing that's like usable the most. But the uptime on it is horrible. I think you can either go some sort of like General's Cry build or the Corpse Explode build at League Start, and both will be okay. But I definitely think the Corpse Explode build is more interesting of the 2 because you never get to play that, right? They're all here. You guys can check out all the stuff here. I don't remember this being really interesting in Total League, so it's probably not going to be that great, but you guys can check out like some stuff. Like there's some buff that causes 10% of your armor to apply for like non-physical damage from hits, but it only triggers when you get like fucking crit or something. So I don't think it's something that you want to build around. And it has a freaking And I don't think these things go off cooldown. Yeah, it doesn't recover during its effect, right? Okay, anyways. So that's what I think of this. I think this Ascendancy is good. I think it's very, very good. It might not be fast, but a lot of things in PoE isn't speed dependent on anymore, right? Like, Ascendancy like this can farm Valdos. It can be good in Simulacrum. It could be good in like, oh, actually, I don't think it's going to be good in Simulacrum, sorry. Because like you probably have to play Poison and it's not really great. But it can farm bosses, it can do Valdos and stuff like that. It can do Ultimatum for money. Anyways, I think this Ascendancy is very good. It's a really good hardcore Ascendancy. It's just good, I think. Lots of options. Let's go to Surfcaster. I think Surfcaster has one of the best nodes ever made in as a normal lab build, which is Ghost of the Deep. I don't think it's like basically 50% onslaught with some damage. And it's like an insane like first node. It does give you the option of playing cold build to shock. And it has a lot of build enabling things on this Ascendancy. There's problems though. Number one, this Ascendancy doesn't really have a defensive, like a buildable defensive layer, which is Glacial Wave is the only thing that's defensive about this, and Freeze, right? Which, to be fair, Freeze is probably one of the best defensive layers in the game if you can combine it with like not being able to get one tapped, right? But you don't have that option here. This 15% reduced damage is really, really whatever, and it just caps out, and you have to hit hard enough for you to get 15% or 30% chill on the monster. Getting a free Winter Weave is okay. But the problem with this Ascendancy, if you want to blast on it, is they moved the trigger mod from weapons to a temple mod, and it's literally impossible to get now. So it's not impossible to get, but it's dumpster fire, right? So without that, you really don't have any way of like hitting yourself unless you like want to like self-cast an FR or like battle mage's cry an FR, cock an FR from bow. Those are like the ways of you like hitting yourself and using Fulcrum, but like Fulcrum is like a T2 unique or something, right? You're not getting that at least start. Storm Secret is not good enough. Or Storm Secret is okay if you hit yourself multiple times and to proc an FR hit. But there's problems with all of that stuff. You having the Mana Forge or cock means you're constantly having to hit a monster, right? So when you're on screens with no monsters, you're not going to get your reverse chill. And when there is a lot of monsters, you're going to be hitting yourself a lot because you're cocking the fucking FR over and over again, right? You're going to be taking a lot of damage. And same thing with Battle Mage's Cry. Battle Mage's Cry is just 4 consecutive hits, and then you actually need to waste all of those sockets so it doesn't like chain on its own. I think the best option is still the trigger one, and nothing is really that smooth without the trigger weapon. And I think that's the main problem with it. This is really good for impulses, obviously, so you can get impulses for clear. But Ascendancy is, I think it's okay. I wouldn't say this is one of my favorites. I think this is new bait. That's what I think it is. I think this is what this Ascendancy is. It makes you think you're gonna blast, but you're gonna run into like a lot of problems once you get into the harder content in the game. Yeah, I think it's not even that good of a Sanctum runner. It takes 8 seconds for you when you enter a new zone for this ghost to come online, because that's how long it takes the wand to come online. So I don't know. It's not very good. Maybe at the start it's like okay, but definitely when you get faster and faster, it's gonna be like worse and worse, right? I don't know. It says you and your tormented illegal fisherman, or you are touched by a tormented illegal fisherman. So maybe it's just up all the time. I don't know. I can't tell you. I've never played with it. Okay. Anyways, so that's that. Our Arakaali, I think definitely is a good Ascendancy. You get Envy at the start, which makes your leveling kind of insane. I think Jung's been doing a lot of stuff with that, like Envy at leak start, right? And seeing how good leveling is. It gives you a lot of options to a lot of different things. SRS being probably like one of the better things that you like poison SRS at the start. I don't particularly think spiders is good, but I do think like stuff like poisonous concoction of bouncing could be played on this Ascendancy because spiders give you like your spiders give you like freaking like 300% increased damage and it applies wither. So it's like very, very good for that, right? And I don't know, you can get like aspect or something, even though aspect and wither isn't very good, but it also does give you like minus res, which is actually very, very good for chaos builds. So I think that's playable. I think Bama's playable on this. I think Spiders is playable on this, but I don't think Spiders is really that good at start because like the main thing about Spiders is it needs clear, like really, really bad, right? And it loses melee splash, and it doesn't have explode at the start. So I guess like obliteration might be your like saving grace, but it's like okay. Peaconk without proliferation, people play Peaconk without Peaconk of chain is not the same as like regular Peaconk. It literally chains on top of the target and it just kills it. I think definitely both works. That skill carries, man. It straight up carries. If you get 300% poison damage on that skill and like minus res and a free aspect of the spider, that skill's gonna fucking dominate and wither, right? I think it's one of the strongest early skills in the game. So you don't have to believe me if you don't want to, but I think definitely this is a lot of good stuff for League Start. I would rate this Ascendancy. If I were to rate Ascendancies right now from the start, as for League Start, right? For League Start, I would say this is like a B plus at League Start. I would say this is like a B minus at League Start. I would say this is probably like anywhere between B plus, A minus at League Start because it's like a little bit stronger with defensive purposes. I would say this is probably like B minus, C plus at League Start because it's going to be really hard to get these pieces together. I think this is like probably like A minus. For Ancestral Commander, I would give this like a B. For probably like a B plus at League Start. I just don't think it has like enough to like continue to the harder stuff later. I would give this like, I don't know, A minus. Blind Prophet, I think this is one of the best Ascendancies they made, this whole thing. It enables so many things. Splitting Steel, Lightning Strike, Molten Strike of the Zenith. It's so strong, it goes into endgame builds that can be able to one-shot bosses. Like MSZ with Rockiatas and 12% crit would return projectiles and fucking 2 additional proj will literally one-shot any Ubers on day 2. I fucking guarantee it. You might also die to the Uber on day 2, but you will literally just like cream pie them if you can manage to get a Rockiatas. It's like that good, right? Sorry, wrong word. I mean cremate them. Sorry. But yeah, EE, I think Jung made EE. I looked at his POV yesterday for EE Lightning Strike. It's good. You can also play EE Splitting Steel, which also is also really, really good. It has the explode node for Molten Strike of Zenith and Splitting Steel to make both of those builds be able to clear decently better than they used to be able to. And it gives you an endgame option for Lightless, which lets you stack life for like a Wrath life stacker. Even though I do think as a life stacker, nothing's gonna beat the Bog Witch. But that's besides the point. It's still like a really, really good option. I think this is one of the better Ascendancies in the game. I don't think Formless is very good, but Faithless is definitely like playable too as a note, right? So I think this is like the best Ascendancy, AA plus. Can't really fail with this, whatever you do, because you always have like whatever you do on this Ascendancy. If you fail, you can always go to EE, and EE will literally carry you on this. Like crit EE is so fucking strong. It's like beyond strong, right? So defenses for this is either like for endgame is either Ephemeral Edge, like ES stacker, or a Shroud of the Lightless life stacker, right? Both of those can get big pool, and you build your defense around your pool, and that's how you do it. Take your pick, right, of how you want to build your defenses around your pool. But usually, you know, Tricksters are just evasion based with freaking like max res. So, and you're just life with max res and suppression, right? But yeah, like AA plus Ascendancy for sure. Harbinger, I don't want to really get into Harbinger because I don't want to be mean, but taking 3 weapon mods that no one uses and then putting on an Ascendancy is not the smartest thing you do in this game. And the other nodes around it is not really good either. You get some recovery rate, you get some cooldown recovery rate, like some buff expiration shit, and like one of the nodes is redundant too, right? Because like the Harbinger of like the Cyclone Harbinger like makes you immune to channeling while you're channeling, and then they give you another node while you're immune to channeling. So you're just like, what, you're gonna get the same mod like twice? I don't know. I think this is just made really, really poorly. I think this is like F minus. There's like a few things that is enabled by this, but none of those builds are even like good. So unless if I'm missing something, I could be wrong, but yeah. I don't think this is very good. So Herald is definitely like pretty decent, I would say, for a League Start, but Impending Doom is not a good build. What would you rate Impending Doom as a build in Path of Exile right now if you were to have a tier list? It's like D? C? It's like a poison build that doesn't like really do anything, my dude, right? So it's not a very good build. So even though if you can play a bad build on an Ascendancy, that doesn't make the Ascendancy good. I think casters are like not great in general right now. And anything that's caster is automatically like C. Like a good caster build is like C in the game right now. Except for like maybe Archmage, right? They're just all like pretty trash at the moment. Anyways, Herald I think is decent. It gives you really, really good progression because once you get to like this node, part of the tree, right? You get 100% increased damage on a first lab, and it's like decent. Getting 100% increased damage, plus like if you're fire and you're like armor brand or something, you get another 100% here, which gives you a lot of increased damage to carry like your fire build like all the way through until you get to play whatever you want, right? There's a lot of good synergies here, but the problem with this Ascendancy is the defensive options are really, really bad. You have no access to auras, so like max res is already kind of like gone because like without purity, it's really, really hard. Like the only thing that you can sort of do is like very end game and get like all like a bunch of jewels with +2 res and running like melding for elemental. And your physical damage reduction with no determination is literally 15% from this. And like however much physical damage you can scrounge up, probably like Maven armor or something like that if you want to do that. But that's pretty much what you got. In terms of like, you have you have to pick two sides, right? So if you go right side of the tree, you get suppression, which with not enough evasion is going to open you up to basically dying to multi-hit in maps, especially if you under heavy juice. And if you go left side, which is getting block, you're going to open yourself to big like spell hits, right? On bosses and stuff like that. So either way, I don't feel like this Ascendancy has enough defensive options to, even at the start, for you to like have like a really, really good time. But Herald of Agony is playable with this. I think Herald of Purity is playable with this. Herald of Thunder is playable with this. But again, you're probably just going to die. You have this node here with Damnation, which kind of combos with Nostalgia here, which gives you basically 75 Chaos Res with a few nodes on your tree right away, which gets cut in half, right? Giving you 37 Chaos or 37 EDR, but you also can't get endurance charges anymore. So even at base, you lose the 12 EDR, you lose the 12 PDR for 37 EDR, and you lose your ability to generate power and frenzies. I don't know. I just don't think you have enough defensive options here on this build to live like very long. And that's the main problem with it. I would say this Ascendancy is probably like a B, like league startable for multiple builds, but it's going to basically like flop after a few days because it is what it is. I'm sure people don't want to die like over and over on this. No, you cannot combine Eternal Damnation with that. We asked. If you couldn't combine Eternal Damnation, this Ascendancy would actually be good, right? Because then you have the end game option of combining Eternal Damnation with Damnation, and then you could get PDR through like whichever things. Like you could just go like Svalin, and then Aspect of the Crab, Herald of Purity, and whatever else, like maybe like PDR on armor or something like that, and you'll have enough PDR to survive big fizz hits, and you'll be like really, really tanky against elemental hits, right? And then you'll have multi-hit defense through block. But it doesn't stack, so it's not, the numbers are not good enough, and you're just gonna end up falling over to a bunch of shit, in my opinion. And the bad thing about this whole Ascendancy is like, when you play a Herald build, you want to get +3 Heralds, you can't even click this. You can't even click it if you wanted to, right? Or you just miss out on the big freaking Herald damage, which is kind of the whole reason that you play it. Anyways, I would say that Ascendancy is like a B if I were to rate it on a letter scale. Bog Shaman. I don't think Bog Shaman's the best start in the world, but I do think Sanguine Power is absolutely busted. I wouldn't be surprised if you see 60,000 life builds later in this league, even in the course of a month. And that with Wrath Pit is honestly just, it's utterly just too good, right? But I would say as a league start, this build is probably like B-, maybe C+, because I don't know what's good with this to progress properly. All of the damage nodes, all of the nodes have too many downsides at the start. And I don't think Malediction into Nightblood or Rotten Core is going to carry you because there's also downsides on all of these, right? There's just downsides everywhere. You can say that Felfen is actually an upside or double upside at the start because getting to 0 Chaos Res is not the easiest part in like day 1, day 2 of a league. But yeah, it's like there's too many downsides all over the place. But once you get to your town and you can use recombinators for ES gear, Sanguine Power becomes like utter insanity. I would say endgame, this build is probably like an A plus build, and like League Start, it's probably a C minus. I don't think Peaconk is very good with this. I don't think Peaconk's really good on Witch as a start, because it's not even really good on Occultist anymore. Like this node is like decently okay for Peaconk, right? Because you get like AoE and projectile speed, but you also lose 20 res. 20 res is hard to make up at start of the league, man. And you get -5 every single time you get hit, so I guess you're going right side of tree, you want evasion anyways, but I think it's kind of hard to like make up all of that stuff. But maybe it's not like as bad as I think. I'll change it to C plus B minus. How about that at League Start? But I think definitely endgame it's an A, like an A tier Ascendancy. There's too much good stuff here. A Toxic Rain, bro. Have you guys ever started Toxic Rain at League Start, dude? It's like the most horrible experience you'll ever have in your life. You guys are crazy. Anyways, Gambler, I think is a really good Ascendancy. It has its multiple build enabling through Lucky Crit. It has good damage here for like non-damaging ailments. It has avoid stun, avoid thing. This combined with a chest piece literally like almost gets you like fully stun and elemental ailment immune right off the bat. Risky Exploits is very good. Combined with the Toda Shield, it gives you 90% chance for 90% res on hit. And the invert combined with the Mastery is utter insanity. This combined with a little bit of pen and like rolling like elemental res on all your T17s will literally let you like one shot like everything. You'll just do so much fucking damage that this is like utter insanity. This node is also really, really good because it lets you pick which side of avoidance that you want. So Tuna made a build and he had the Toda Shield, max Lucky Block, which is 90% block. So his multi-hit was solved by block. 90% of the time he has big elemental res, spell suppression, and he went all armor. So he's literally protected by from multiple sources, and then he combined it with Lightning Strike, which is, and reversed odds. That makes the build like really, really good. I think Gambler is an A tier Ascendancy and an A tier League Starter. I think it's good from the start to the end. It gives you plenty of defensive options. It gives you plenty of offensive options, and it's just good overall. Does this put Gambler very low? Why? Gambler's really, really good. Am I crazy? Gambler's really good. It presents you with all of these defensive options that you can do, and it makes you be able to build your build like the way you want to build it. It is good. I don't think it's boring. Yeah, it has good damage. It has good defenses. It's just overall just good, I think. Paladin's also really good because Elemental Valiance at League Start is like super, super good. It gives you like a level like 27 Hatred, Anger, and Wrath, right? And you kind of just pop off because you'll have so much flat right after Cruel Lab, and it'll just carry you to like red maps. It's level 30. Is it level 30? I thought it was like 27 or 28 or something, but it is really, really good. But then again, you're playing an attack build. Then like later when you get Flash Effect with Mage Blood, you have Field Medicine here, which gives you 40% increased effect, which basically makes you really, really tanky with Mage Blood. And you also have, nodes like that, which gives you a slightly increased damage at League Start. And this can give you regen if you really need regen. And this opens you up to strike skills. It opens you up to minion builds. It opens up to you to like a lot of different things and aura bot, whatever, right? I think it's a little bit better for strike skills and stuff like that because you're a duelist, but that's just me. I said as an end game option. So like take your finger and clean your ears. I said at the end game as an end game option. So, and even Flash Effect at League Start is not even that bad, to be fair, right? There's options for Flash Effect being good at League Start too. Anyways, I would say Paladin is an A tier Ascendancy. At League Start, A minus B plus endgame. I think it's just like good all the way around. So, good pick if you want to go pick. Aristocrat is definitely interesting. I definitely don't think this is a good starting Ascendancy. I think a lot of the nodes on the top are too weak. And the only thing that's really build enabling is this node, Dreadful Attitude, which makes your tri-stack do a lot of like increased damage. There are builds for this, but I'm not sure they're good for League Start. And I honestly just think the top side is weaker, right? I would give us Aristocrat, I don't know, like B minus as a League Start, C plus League Start, It's doable, but it's probably not the greatest because you need certain things for your shit to get going. And as an end game, it's probably around like, I don't know, a B tier Ascendancy, I would say. I don't think there's anything like really, really broken for you to get like giga tanky or do giga damage. It's playable, maybe a C, right? It's like, okay. Architect of Chaos. Architect of Chaos is very, very good. It's definitely good for like someone who knows exactly what the fuck they're doing. But if you don't understand Vol skills and you do not understand mechanics regarding all of these things, this is not something you should be doing. I think Vol Lightning Strike is very good with this, and Vol Cold Snap is very good with this. You might even be able to start Vol Earthquake with this. And I think all of those builds will just like pop off like immediately. Like 300 crit, like for a strike skill, for a Vol strike skill is like really, really good. And you basically get to like, if you go on a boss with Vol Lightning Strike, you can basically like spam your Vol Lightning Strike, or you're not spam it. You can have it down for like, I don't know, something like 80 seconds or something is like the math. If you have a fully charged Vol Lightning Strike. So it's like once every like few seconds, you just drop another Vol Lightning Strike and you just run around and you drop another Vol. It's basically like playing like brands on bosses and it's like giga strong, right? And the other option is Vol Cold Snap, which is basically playing a better RF at league start because you just get your 30 souls and you have like basically 2 minutes of just running around with a better RF that does more damage, that doesn't need Fire Trap to do damage. So I think both of those options are really, really good. You get the +3 to Vol skills, which is like kind of insane. As a like a second node, I don't know, getting +3 levels on your spell is always good. Also, like you can combine this with the Vol gloves, which are really, really easy to get in Trade League to get +8 on like Vol Cold Snap on a 5 link, or it's like better than a 5 link like immediately with like 8 levels, right? And you can just power through the game. I'm pretty sure on a 4 link glove, you can do like red maps with like absolute shit gear. So I think Dan's playing that. You might want to ask him for a POB, but because I don't have one, I made like a pretty shitty one and I was just like, and I stopped working on it. Is that Dan's Cold Snap? Okay, so he's using Vol Cold Snap with Cold Snap. And it actually has some pretty decent gear. But, you know, Dan's build is a hardcore build. You can get pretty decent DPS, like, right off the bat, right? He definitely has some really good gear on this. But, like, you can't expect to play Vol. Like, I'm saying, like, you can't expect to play Vol Cold Snap the same way a lot of the other builds, right? I said it's more damage than an RF build. And you guys know how much damage RF does. If you want to run around and just have shit die, like, around you, the build is never going to be, like, some, like, 600 million DPS build that's going to, like, destroy the game, right? It's more of a like a comfort, I want to have fun build than I'm going to go destroy the game build sort of a deal. But I think both are playable though. And I think both are like pretty decent for those types of builds, right? Anyways, I think it's pretty good. Definitely league startable. I don't know how endgame is going to look on this, but I do think like Shepherds of Souls is very good. You just have to set up your build to time your like Shepherd so you don't like override it. But anything over 10 seconds is honestly just pretty good, right? Okay. Polytheist. I would say Polytheist is like one of the weaker Ascendancies, like endgame, because it's made like, it's like all over the place, right? But I do think Burning Hoofprints can carry you in the early game. So like whatever you play on this, you're basically going to get carried like by this ability, right? The second good thing is Devourer Lunaris is really, really good for a lot of stuff like Pyroclast Mines. And I think I want to make one of my builds around that because I think Pyroclast Mines with Devourer Lunaris is actually really good. But other than that, I don't really know like what this Ascendancy is really, really good at. But yeah, but even if you go all the way, like what are you going to play after, right? I do like Pyroclast Mines though. I think it's going to be good. Tier, I would say Polytheist is probably like a B at league start and like B plus at leak start, maybe even an A- at leak start because of Aberrat and how good it is, but it definitely is going to fall off a cliff at a certain point. The Ascendancy is too spread out and it's made too weird, right? Especially this part of the Ascendancy. So if you're playing Pyroclast Mines, I think it'll be okay, but it's not going to be like top tier, right? It's not like you're gonna go to Pyroclast Mines and you're gonna equip with Rock Yadas and you're gonna one-shot every single Uber in the game, like what Molten Strike of the Zenith is gonna do on Blind Prophet, but or like, you know, like EE Splitting Steel or EE Lightning Strike or some stupid shit like that. It's definitely not gonna be like super, super strong like one of those builds, but it's definitely playable. Same with a lot of these other Ascendancies, right? Here comes Puppeteer. This is a minions ascendancy, guys. So minions is the key word here. Okay, so Puppeteer is a minions build. I'm not sure what to do with this ascendancy, I'm gonna be honest. So there's some zombie shittier and there's some anime weapon shittier. Anime weapon, I feel like, is okay, and this might make it like a lot better, but I don't play those builds, and I don't really touch minions in general in this game because I hate their fucking AI, and I only play them like once every few leagues. I heard string stacking zombies doesn't stack. I heard this node doesn't stack. Scion is probably, next to Wildspeaker, probably the best league start you can ever imagine in this league. Power Siphon Mines on Scion with Cloak of Flames, a Fury Valve, and Void Battery is utter insanity as a league starter. Next to you having the league start Scion, and there's so many endgame options with these like items and combinations. You can, I don't know, go back to the stream where I talked about Scion, where we're discussing Scion, but it's gonna take me too long to break down. A-tier Ascendancy, A-tier Ascendancy, League Start, A-tier in the end game. Like, it's very, very good, I think. That's my breakdown of all the Ascendancies and all of that stuff. I'm American, we only have A through F, bro. We don't have S. Most of the Ascendancies are pretty good, I would say. I would say, like, stay away from Behemoth, stay away from Harbinger. I think Herald might be, I think Herald is a little bit weak too, defensively.
Meow 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 meow.
I'm not 55, you little Quantric. It's because of you. Now all Alkaiser does is make fun of me every day. Every day I go in the shrine and it's like, Rupu gets poo-pooed on by Quantric's dick. 1 pump, 2 pump, 3 pump, 4 pump, 5 pump, 5 pumps. And then it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like, stop, dude.